What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Nutrition Talks with Tyson the Trainer. Now, today we're going to be talking about coming out of deficit and weight gain. Because guess what? You're going to gain weight when you come out of deficit. But also, guess what? You're not going to be putting on body fat coming out of deficit if you do it well. All right. And also, guess what? No, that's about it. Just basically, I want to help you guys kind of understand why you're going to regain weight coming out of deficit, why that weight regain isn't going to be bad to a degree, and then also how you're going to be able to, transition from a deficit into a maintenance phase, and then make sure that you're just on the right track mentally, so you're not freaking yourself out that you're going backwards. That's the first thing. Secondly, I'm then going to talk about not on this podcast. My apologies. The next podcast I've actually organized myself a little bit. A bit different. On the next podcast, I'm going to have what to focus on when maintaining and finishing a diet. So that, and then I've got a third podcast. Actually, I'm surprised myself here. So just so you guys know what's going to be coming in the next 3 weeks, basically. You got coming out of deficit and weight gain today. Next time, what to focus on when maintaining and finishing a diet. And then thirdly, increasing motivation and adherence to sticking to what you want to do. Now, when I think about this, the way it should be ordered, I'm actually going to make increasing motivation and adherence before this one. So you're going to be like, I've already listened to this, Tyson. Yes, you have. And now you're onto this episode. So welcome to this episode. Now, there's a little insight into my scattered brain. So basically, coming out of deficit and weight gain. People think this is a bad thing. What you need to consider is when you're coming out of a deficit, you're going to gain weight naturally, just because you are now going to be doing certain things that's going to cause you to be heavier in general, okay? These things that are going to contribute to extra weight gain is number one, food in the stomach. You're going to be eating more food in general. When you eat more food, that is more weight within itself, okay? Like, you're eating a certain amount of food every day. Let's say eating a total of 2 kilos of food a day, all right? That might seem like a lot for a lot of people. If you're supposed to be eating at least 500 grams of veggies a day, 300 grams of fruit, that's nearly 1 kilo right there, just within the fruit and veggie side of things. Then you're having the rest of the stuff. Let's say you have like 200 to 300 grams of meat a day. That's 1 kilo right there, okay? So then we've got the other stuff, so maybe like 1.5 kilos, okay? So you're going from, let's say, 1 kilo to 1.5 kilos of food to then 2 kilos of food. So just by nature, you're eating an extra 250 to 500 to 700 grams of food a day. That's going to contribute to overall weight gain, all right? But again, I'm trying to disassociate you guys with what weight gain is and what fat gain is, because who gives a fuck? Like, of course you're going to gain weight from doing that. And people are like, oh, but I don't want to see the scale going up. Go and put 1 kilo of something on a scale and then go and put 1.5 kilos of something on a scale. It's just by nature going to be heavier due to that extra, but that doesn't contribute to anything else except for the weight itself being heavier, all right? So don't get caught up in this, but the scale is like, okay, well, fuck, man, like, you can't prevent this, all right? Unfortunately, you just can't do it. Unless you want to stay in a deficit for the rest of your life? No. So that's the first thing. Secondly, along with that extra food you're eating is going to bring in water with it. The reason water is going to be brought into that is because you're going to be consuming more carbohydrates and you're also going to be having more sodium, all right? Sodium, just by nature, like, you're increasing your food intake, you're going to naturally increase your sodium. Again, sodium is not a bad thing. Water retention, it's not fucking bad, all right? Sodium will attract water. Carbohydrates will pull water. Every 1 gram of carbohydrate you have will contain 3 grams of water. All right. These aren't bad things. Water is not a bad thing. Fuck me dead. Everyone's so scared of water. I'm feeling watery. I'm feeling bloated. All this water. You don't even know what fucking water does in your body. Because guess what? You are nearly completely all water for the most part. A majority of you is water. Just so you know. All right. Just so you fucking know. You're not scared of hydration. You're not scared of actually drinking water, but you're scared of things when you hear, salt will cause water retention. Carbohydrates cause water retention. You don't even fucking understand what that word means, all right? So stop freaking out about this stuff, because if you're freaking out about something you actually don't understand, then that is pointless, all right? Water, quote unquote, water retention. Why did I say quote unquote? Water retention from sodium and carbohydrates is not a bad thing, okay? When does it become a bad thing? When you've had a high day of eating, higher than you should be eating, let's say. You go and get KFC, you go and get Macca's, you go and get a takeaway that's high in carbohydrates, high in sodium, and yes, you will then look, quote unquote, why did I say that? You look puffy the next day. Puffy. I feel puffy. I feel fucking bloated. Yeah, of course, because you just had a huge influx of something that you're not used to and the body cannot handle it. That's why. All right. And it's like, oh, sweet. We have all this extra fluid. Let's hold on to it for a while. Give it 2 days, then it comes all off. Okay. When you are going from a deficit into a maintenance phase, this water is going to be good for you because guess what? Water, like I said, your body is made up predominantly of water. So when you are increasing your overall weight, the water going up in your body, you're going to look better for it. This is the difference between having lower body fat and having higher body fat. When you have a lower body fat and you're just finished a deficit and then you increase your water by your body holding onto it, you're going to look better because that water is going to go into muscle, all right? When water goes into muscle, it's going to make you look more toned and defined, that people say. It's the same as creatine. We'll be like, oh, I don't want to take creatine. I've heard it makes you hold water. Yeah, in your muscles. When you have water in your muscles, which is predominantly, again, what your muscles are made of, fucking water, you're going to look better for it. Same thing with carbohydrates. When you give your body the carbohydrates that are needed in order to refill your muscle glycogen. So when you go from, let's say you're in a deficit, let's say you're at 60% capacity of muscle glycogen, okay? When you're eating enough to maintain your current weight, you are then eating at 100%, 90 to 100% of your muscle glycogen. That means your muscles will be fuller. Your muscles will be bigger. That's a good thing. Do you want your muscles to look bigger and more defined? Then you shouldn't be fucking scared of water. Okay? It's that simple. Same as sodium. Like, yeah, sodium makes you hold more water, but guess what? Sodium is an electrolyte for your muscles. When you are contracting muscles, there's sodium. That's called the sodium-potassium pump. There's sodium going in and out, all right? That's a good thing. You want to get good pumps in the gym, you're going to fucking feel it when you have more sodium. If you've ever, again, eaten a Macca's or a fatty meal, and you go and have, I don't want to say a fatty meal, sorry, a high-salt meal, and then you go and train the next day, you're like, holy fuck, man, like my muscles feel tight. Yes, that is the pump. That is due to sodium. It's nothing bad about it unless you have blood pressure issues. How do you know if you have blood pressure issues? Go and fucking check your blood pressure. If you're a female, there's a very, very, very high chance you don't have blood pressure issues and you shouldn't be scared. If you're a male and you're overweight, there is a potential chance. I should actually say, sorry. If you're a female, pardon me. If you're a female and you're does anyone yawn when I yawn? That means you're empathetic if you yawn when I yawn. But if you're a female and you're overweight, then you could definitely have a higher chance of blood pressure too. If you're a female and you're lower weight, you shouldn't be, or like in a normal weight, or diet or anything, you shouldn't be stressed about your blood pressure and you shouldn't be actively trying to cut salt. That's just a side tangent. But anyways, yes, you're going to retain water, okay? It's not going to be bad. It's going to make you look good. This is also when people come out of deficit and you go into maintenance, you actually look better for it. You look way better in a maintenance, going to maintain your new weight than you did in a dieting phase. Because when you're eating enough, like I said, your muscles are going to be fuller. They're going to look more defined. They're going to look bigger. That's what we want. I've shown you guys, one of my clients, Imogen. I love talking about Imogen because she was someone who was scared to go to maintenance calories. I've got the hiccups, I've got the yawns, I've got everything today. She was someone who was scared to go to maintenance calories. We made her diet. She looked fucking lean. She's been at maintenance. She's at maintenance like 4 months now, probably longer because she's a soccer player and she wants to, make sure she's working on performance. And guess what? She's still jacked as fuck, still got abs and looks great. Heaps of clients that are like that. For her, she's a standout just because she's got that athletic build and she actually, for a female to have abs, to maintain abs, to be able to play at a higher level of sport with soccer and being able to just function well is actually quite tough because you have to be a genetic outlier as a female to have abs all year round to be able to do that because it just means you have low levels of body fat and lower levels of body fat for a female is actually usually harder than a male, right? Which is why we see way more males walking around with a six-pack than females. Unfortunately, that's just the way it is due to genetics. However, there are outliers like her where it's like, hey, she can fucking walk around with abs all the time, being able to maintain that without any detriment. And it's like she's eating plenty of fucking food, like 2,500 calories a day. Like pretty bloody decent, right? So when you go to maintenance, you're going to look better, all right? Don't be scared of it. Don't be scared of that scale. So firstly, weight gain from food, from carbohydrates, from sodium, okay? That's something to consider. Instead of thinking about the weight gain, look at your measurements. And what you're going to see is your measurements will probably change by a centimeter. Now, again, you finish your diet. You're like, oh, fuck, okay, I got to go to maintenance. Take your measurements every week still. Do the same thing. Every Sunday, take your measurements. What you will realize is everything will probably change by a centimeter. And this is also why, again, food volume goes up. Stomach will go up by a centimeter. Muscle volume goes up. Everything will go up by a centimeter, which is good, okay? What we don't want to see is continuous trends going up, especially around the waist. That's a pure indication, basically, to a degree, that you're either, gaining fat if it keeps going up and up and up. Everything else will look good. Everything else is relatively the same. Again, if your arms went up by another centimeter, I wouldn't be freaking out. But all we're going to see is a slight jump up from measurements within the first 2 to 3 weeks of being at maintenance, like when your body's fully restored. Maintenance doesn't happen over a day, doesn't happen over a week. Usually it's 2 to 3 weeks of consistent calorie intake at the amount you need. All right. So your weight may jump up between, I can't give you guys an estimate of what your weight will jump up between, but if you are going to weigh yourself, look at what it jumps up with, keep an eye on it. If it keeps going up, then you're not in a maintenance phase anymore. You are now in most likely a surplus. So you need to pull it back a little bit. And this is also the thing people stress about, oh fuck, what if I miscalculate? Okay, what if you miscalculate? Do you think you're going to gain kilos and kilos without fucking realizing? No. Your weight will jump up, and then if it keeps jumping up, then you do something about it. That's all you need to do, right? It's not like you're going to be one day you wake up 3 years from now and you're like, oh my God. That's what happened the first time, right? 3 years from just making shitty behaviors and you wake up and you're like, oh, fuck. You're not going to do the same thing. So it's you still keep an eye on it. It's just this is what just blows me away. People are like, oh, what if I miscalculate? It's okay, what if you miscalculate? You think 2 fucking weeks of being in a slight surplus is going to do anything negative for you? No. Never. It's not, right? Because it's at the end of the day, you're probably so scared to gain weight that you're in such a small surplus, if you go into a surplus, that it's not going to have these bloody yawns. It's not going to have any negative effect on you. Think about it. 2 weeks. What have you done when you do 2 weeks of dieting? You don't see fucking much because you're complaining about how slow your progress is. Yet all of a sudden you're like, oh, 2 weeks at a surplus, my life's gonna be over. I'm gonna gain so much weight. It's Jesus, fuck man, you catastrophize things. Relax a little bit, okay? It's gonna be fine if you were in a slight surplus, but you're not. So weight gain is normal, okay? This is why I don't like people having, what's the word called? A goal weight. I don't know why I couldn't think about that. People have a goal weight that they want to achieve, and it's don't fucking do that. Why do you need a goal weight? Because if you pick 60, guess what? You're not going to be happy because you go to 60, you then go to maintenance, you're now 62, and you're like, oh, but I wanted to be 60. Well, then you should aim for 58. And then people go, oh, so should I aim lower than my goal weight? No, it's not about the goal weight. Stop focusing on the fucking weights, man. And females, stop focusing on the goal weight. Instead, just focus on, being, I don't want to say being happy with how you look, but it's focus on that side of things where it's all right, you look in the mirror and you feel good. Because what you would do, I can guarantee you this is how fucked up a lot of people are with their relationship with the scale. You finish your diet, you feel good, you look in the mirror, you're like, yeah, I look good, I'm feeling good, all right? 2 weeks later, you've gone to maintenance. It's been 2 weeks since the maintenance, I should say. You look in the mirror, you're like, yeah, I fucking feel good. I actually look like I haven't gained any fat at all. I'm feeling still quite lean. My stomach looks flat. You step on the scale. You're now 63. Oh my God. Oh fuck. Oh no, I've ruined it. I've gained fat. Surely I'm gaining fat. You look back in the mirror. Oh my God, what happened to me? Oh, you literally let the scale change your perception of how you look at yourself. Literally within an instant, you're all of a sudden thinking that you don't look how you just looked before you looked at yourself. And you're like, oh no, you start gaslighting yourself. Oh no, man, I mustn't be looking at myself properly. I've got to take a real account, blah, blah, blah. And it's holy shit. You didn't gaslight yourself. Sorry, you have gaslight yourself because you stood on a fucking scale. That's what you did. So stop letting this weight dictate the way you're going to feel, because it's the wrong mentality to have, okay? So accept that you're going to be a little bit heavier. That doesn't matter, because again, you look at your measurements, you look at that tracking over time. If it's staying the same, which it should be, happy days. Again, within a centimeter or 2. So that's what we want to be using to track your progress, not the fucking scale when you're coming out of a deficit. It is using measurements, all right? So like I said, full of glycogen, rehydrated, food in your stomach, that's what's going to cause you to gain weight. So then how do you come out of a deficit, right? Like, do you just use my calculator? Yes, that would be a good idea to use my calculator. But what are you supposed to do? Because people still freak out like, oh, well, how do I know I'm not in a deficit anymore? How do I know that I'm going to be in a maintenance and not in a surplus? Very, very simple. So one, you can just use my calculator, because here's the thing. If you're not losing more than 10 kilos at a time, or again, you haven't lost more than 10 kilos, your calorie expenditure isn't going to be a huge amount different from your starting calorie expenditure. And you know what? That's fucking awesome. You should actually be very happy with that. People are like, nah, surely that can't be the case. It can be, all right? And the good thing about that is that means you get to eat more food to maintain your new weight even though you're lighter, right? I've come from 98 kilos down to 90 kilos, right? My 98 kilos, my maintenance was about 4,800. My 90 kilos, my maintenance is 4,500. Okay, 300 kilos difference in 8 kilos of weight loss. That's not fucking bad at all. That's basically for every kilo I've lost is like a 30 calorie difference, if that, for myself. Daily calorie difference. 30 fucking calories, man. I'll take that any day of the week. Fucking oath. So the good thing is, again, your maintenance probably isn't going to be that different if you haven't lost a huge sum of weight. If you've lost more, then yeah, it could be a fair bit different. So you can either use a calculator and go from there. Or here's something else you can do, is you can use math. I'm not cutting these yawns out, by the way, just because I know you guys like it raw, as annoying as it can be to have the yawns in there. I'm just keeping it raw. At least I'm a tired boy today, and I'm still showing up and being consistent for you guys. So with the math side of things, to calculate your maintenance, your new maintenance, let's say, this is going to be based off your rate of weight loss over the last 2 weeks, okay? So if you're averaging a weight of weight loss, let's say of 400 grams, you're roughly in about a 500 calorie deficit, okay? So I can't remember if you guys, I'll recalculate anyways. For every 90 grams a week you are losing, you are in a 100 calorie deficit a day. So 90 grams a week, 100 calorie deficit a day. 180 grams a week, 200 calorie deficit a day. Through 270 grams a week is 300 calorie deficit a day. What's after that? I'm trying to think of my 9 times tables. 360 grams a week is 400 calorie deficit. 450 grams a week is a 500 calorie deficit. I'm closing my eyes doing this math in my head. That's how it's going to be going, okay? So just so you guys know. So if you're losing 400 grams a week, you're in roughly a 500 calorie deficit, give or take. That's it. You're not going to go into a surplus. It's that simple. Because how do we know this? Well, we know that roughly, this is like the calculations, the older calculations, in a pound of fat, which is 450 grams, there's 3,500 calories, which is why we create a 500 calorie deficit every day to make a 3,500 calorie deficit a week, and you lose about 450 grams, which is about half a kilo of fat. We know that. That's why that rule, the 500 calorie deficit, always came through, okay? So if we know that 500 calorie deficit a day creates about a 450 to 400 gram deficit, weight loss of body fat, then I just worked backwards from that. That's basically how I just divided it up to figure out what that is in 100 calorie marks, okay? So that's how we know. That's literally math, all right? So if you ask someone who's looking at the scale and you're like, oh, well, fuck, how do I know? That's how you know. That's how you know if you're going to change it from a deficit to a maintenance. And you're like, oh, but surely I can't just eat 400 extra calories a day. Yes, you can. You've just done the math to show yourself that you're in a 400 calorie deficit or a 300 calorie deficit or a 500 calorie deficit, whatever the fuck it is. That is that. And it's like, but I don't want to gain weight. You're not, because all you're doing is you're closing the energy gap between maintenance and a deficit. Like, you just created a calorie gap is all you've done, right? Which is the deficit. It's like, you're losing that amount a week. Okay, all you do is you eat that amount extra every day, and that stops the weight loss. All it does is stop that weight loss right there. Boom, sorted. Problem solved. Deficit, no longer a deficit. Now at maintenance. Easy. Sweet. Happy days, right? It's very simple. You either use my calculator or you use that simple math. And then you just eat like that. That's how you get out of maintenance. That's how you get out of a deficit. Now, funnily enough, if you're like, oh, well, my weight's been pretty slow, does that mean my maintenance could be lower? It could be, or it could just be that, again, that your body is adapted. So that's why I like to use my calculator, because usually it'll mean you can eat a little bit more and you're still going to be fine. It's just about making that adjustment first, all right? It'll take some time in order for you to eat up towards where my calculator says, because everyone's like, oh, but your calculator is so high. I've never had someone come to me and say, hey, I started following your plan, I started following your calculator, and I gained all this extra weight. It doesn't happen, because my calculator takes into account real life, okay? Go and look at any other calculator online. What does it ask you? What's your lifestyle? Sedentary, moderately active, very active. Okay, well then what the fuck does that mean? So you're doing 10,000 steps a day, you're training once a day, and then you sit down at an office desk and you're like, oh, I must be sedentary. No, you're fucking not sedentary, all right? What's moderately active? Like, what the fuck is that? And then it's like, how many days do you work out a week? This, might be the calculator. How many days do you work out a week? 1 to 3 days, 3 to 5 days, 5 to 7 days. What's a workout? Are you talking about just weight training? Because that burns fuck all calories. What about if I'm training 5 days a week and I'm doing a run every day for an hour? I'm doing a 10K run. These things are fucking so generic, man. And people are like, oh, but yours overestimates. No, it doesn't. It estimates you based on your actual fucking activity levels and takes away all the other bullshit, right? It's already taken into account your BMI. Well, it does take into account your BMI. It's already taken into account your thermic effect of food. It's already taken into account that you probably go and weight train, right? Or whether you do or you don't, because again, weight training doesn't add that many fucking calories to an extra burn. So it takes into your lifestyle, like it takes in exactly how much you're actually moving per day. Because guess what? Your rate of movement, not within an hour, not within 2 hours, but within 16 hours of when you're usually awake, or 17 hours of you moving around doing shit, is what is actually realistic. It's more of a realistic calculator. It takes in what your daily average is of your steps, which is your form of movement, correct? Yes. So you don't need to worry about all that other shit, because a lot of it is just fucking, like, just so you guys understand, when the people are trying to figure out when they use calorie calculators online, there's like 3 different formulas to use. I'm pretty sure there's 3 different formulas. There's like Mifflin, there's like the Saint Benedict or whatever the fuck it's called, and then there's the there's the Harris Benedict, the Mifflin, and there's one more. I'm pretty sure there's only 3 that people use basically. And again, these are just like generalized equations that are used, because it's like, all right, well, they get us close enough, but it's like they're still estimates, where it's like we actually can just fucking stop estimating and get we could get a more accurate estimation now, instead of using these ones that are back in the fucking early 90s. Because guess what? Technology evolves. We can actually take into account people's daily activity more accurately versus just idealizing. And so that's why the calculator works, all right? So you use that, you figure out what you need to do, close your calorie deficit, and then you just go there. And people are like, oh, what if I need to reverse? You don't, because you just figured out what your calorie deficit is. You just eat the extra amount. Why would you need to reverse out of that? Your body's not going to fucking adapt. If your body's losing 500 grams a week, what the fuck does it need to adapt to anything? You just stop it from losing 500 grams a week. It's not like, oh, well, I was losing 500 grams a week. Now I'd better start putting weight on because you've given me the 500 calories extra. It's like, that doesn't fucking make sense at all. Like, when we think about it logically, like, oh yeah, that makes sense. But it's like, it has to be said by someone who can make sense of it, right? Versus just like this magical fucking thing. The body's going to want to put on weight. No, it ain't. Thankfully, okay? Like, the body wants to put on weight. The body doesn't want to lose fat. I understand that, but it's like, the body's also not going to just magically fucking photosynthesize from the sun and put on weight if you're not eating the amount of calories required for you to put on weight, all right? Do you understand what I'm saying? I hope so. So it's a good thing. You can just go straight from a deficit into your predictive maintenance, because the body is not going to be like, oh, well, here's the extra 500 calories coming in. We were losing before. We better just chuck that all back onto it, like make it a surplus. Let's just slow the body down while more food comes in. No, the body's actually quite good. When you actually eat more food, it adapts to a higher food intake. Not for everyone, but for a large majority of people. That's why they've done studies where they've overfed people 1,000 calories a day, and some people barely gained any fucking weight. Some people gained a lot of weight, right? Some people gained barely any, because everyone adapts to a degree. the rate of adaptiveness is just based on the person. Okay? Now that's really it, right? Like, that's how you close your energy gap. That's what you need to do. You don't need to focus, you don't need to stress so much about the weight gain, because the weight gain will happen. I'm telling you that right now. It will happen, but it's not a bad thing. And as long as the numbers don't keep going up, which is why we take our measurements, you're going to be okay. You've just got to accept the weight gain is going to be there. And finally, with that being said, like I just said to you guys, you can close the energy gap by doing my calculator, or you can also, increase your calories just based on how much weight it's losing. Maintenance is also not an exact number. It's not 2,532 calories a day, okay? It's a range. If you're like, okay, well, the answer Tyson calculator gave me was, again, 2,532 calories. It's probably between 2,600 and 2,400 calories, all right? There's always a 10% variation, all right? Don't get fucking stuck in this one number. And like, please do not do these absolute dumb numbers either. Like, 2,532. Just fucking round it to 2,500 or 2,600. Jesus Christ, man. Like, when people say that to me, I've got 2,374 calories. Like, as if your fucking body, or anyone in the right mind, should I say, thinks that's the fucking number, So don't get obsessed about that either, okay? So that is a podcast done and dusted. Quite a simple, easy one for you guys. I hope it was enjoyable. If you guys did enjoy this, I would love for you to share it and give me a tag on Instagram. I apologize for the yawns. And I'll speak to you guys in the next episode. Cheers.